No, because this is another point. The reason why I will always harp on Twilight is because it's setting out all of these problematic and terrible elements for children to read. Stephenie Meyer and her team explicitly marketed Twilight towards tweens and young adults. And I really wish the misogyny-fueled discourse didn't happen, because now you've got a bunch of people retroactively proclaiming like we should lay off Twilight and Stephenie Meyer and yada yada yada. When in actuality, there are some things we actively need to criticize about Twilight, and especially Stephenie Meyer's portrayal of people of color. And it's messed up that Stephenie Meyer made a story with a lot of pedophilia in it and then marketed it to kids. This was an age-appropriate book to be reading and in our library when I was in, 5th grade. In fact, a bunch of my friends, when I was, 11 and especially 12 years old, were actively reading Twilight, and it was being recommended to us by authority figures. It was promoted as a teen novel. And listen, I mentioned this in the comments. Anne Rice is on my shit list too for some of the things she wrote about, and especially how she treated other creatives. But the Vampire Chronicles was made for adults. It was marketed for adults. It was never meant to be in the hands of children. Twilight was, and it's the irresponsible publication of this book towards children that irks me more than anything else. A lot of adults would be able to understand, yeah, it's kind of fucked up and gross she's fetishizing Confederate soldiers, and literally looked up actual names of soldiers to use in her story. And yeah, the way she's portraying the Quileute tribe is absolutely not accurate to real life. That's gross. The way she is trying to romanticize a over 100-year age difference. Furthermore, putting grooming and pedo stuff, I had someone in my comments be like, it's not technically pedophilia because they wait until they're an adult. Shorty, that's grooming. They are actively deciding, and some of them are adults and or in late teens, actively deciding that a baby or a toddler is their intended mate. And don't forget Stephanie's little quip about how after, 6 years old, the half-born vampires are fully grown. Was it 6 years old or 6 months? I think it was 6 years old. I'm hoping it's 6 years old. To justify the fact that Jacob is gonna be with Renesmee, completely forgetting about that 2-year-old one of his homies is actively grooming. And of course there's people that really don't like to talk about this aspect of the media because it makes them uncomfortable. And it should make you uncomfortable. This is morally crappy things to do, but a lot of them will try to justify it or say it's taken out of context or saying you're thinking about it too hard when it's explicitly stated text within the fucking media you're consuming just the same as them. And it's like, you can enjoy Twilight, but Stephenie Meyer is racist, and she put her racism and sexism in her books. And as long as you are grown enough to recognize it, enjoy Twilight. Like I said, I love the Vampire Chronicles and Anne Rice. There's some real icky stuff, especially with Armand, that I don't vibe with. That being said, though, I recognize it, and I still enjoy the campy wildness of the stories. You can do the same with Twilight. It's about being cognitively able to recognize that sometimes you're gonna like something that has problematic elements. But as long as you recognize it, that's what matters. Instead, a lot of people would rather bury their head in the sand, completely absorb this media uncritically, and then get mad when people with a critical eye and mind criticize it. Even though the criticism is absolutely valid. And I honestly think the discourse around Twilight would not be as bad, and Twilight would have probably slipped into that good night if it weren't for the fact that it was marketed for kids. Because media loves to hate on anything teenage girls enjoy, but also too, the really fucked up and problematic elements, and you know what I know for a fact? It would have faded into that good night and just been like a meme on the internet, because look at 50 Shades of Grey. That was something that was marketed explicitly towards adults. It had its 15 minutes of fame. They ain't gonna be a 50 Shades of Grey renaissance. No one gives a fuck about that book. That book is solely and purely for ripping on. All I'm saying is, Elements in my book that must be changed are punctuation and a few spelling mistakes, because Mama got heavy-ass dyslexia. Elements that would need to be fixed in Meyer's writing are the pedophilia, the racism, and the sexism.